Only
my
Mahaguna.
consciousness.
Forget it. No way. You're not going to do it. I don't care what you say. And I forget she walks in front of Jayapataka Maharaj. And I said, Maharaj, you know, and he looks at me, he goes, we need to do that 12. I said, okay. During those midnight initiations, because they were telling me, you don't let him do that anymore. We're not having initiations at midnight. It throws the whole program. I said, okay, I'm going to tell him this year. So I knew I had to start with Mahaguna. And he goes, well, what can what can you do? How can you argue with such a person like that?
All right, Mr. Mouse, Mr. Mouse. In front of all of us, he's a lion. I call him a lion. But that's very nice. You should see the pastimes with Sikhi Maiti and our Guru Maharaj. Oh, it's amazing. I love it. I enjoy for those
Yeah,
times.
because she's the instigator. That's the
I tell him, anyway, now I'll go ahead and get into my offering real quick, but Vyasa Prabhu will end with this. Before I go to the next part of the program, is there anybody who felt that they were not called? The pastimes continuing from Sikhi Maiti. We had a pact. There was one time, actually, look at me, I'm such a fallen devotee. Let me offer my respectful obeisances to His Divine Grace, Śrīla Jayapataka Swami, Guru Maharaj ki. Yeah. I'm just very, very the most fallen, but I feel very fortunate that only because of his mercy and strength that I've been able to carry on his service for so long. I feel very distraught now for the past 3 years that he got sick and my service kind of went to a little lesser extent when I was involved 100%. Now it's like maybe 25% because he's not. But otherwise still, he always says, my executive secretary, my financial secretary, so sometimes I feel like I don't deserve it. But what I do want to take this time today, just to take a couple of my minutes, is to share some of the pastimes, because it's just one of the most, those memories nobody can take away from you. Not just this life, but any life after life. One of that is with Sikhi Maiti Prabhu, one Pranyati, we wanted to start on time. And this is before he got sick. We wanted to start on time, 7 o'clock. I want Guru Jayapatākā Maharaj to come there because he cannot make the 1 o'clock offering. If you have helped in the Pranyati kitchen, you will know that it's the most difficult time there. It's like the stress level, BP level, maybe at 150, like that. Because there's so much to do. And if Maharaj doesn't come at 7, there is no way offering will happen at 1. So I told Sikhi Maiti, I said, okay Sikhi, now you tell me, I can go get Maharaj, no problem. I said, great, let's see, you go or I go. First you go, then I go, if you cannot do it. And he's like, nah, you just don't know, look, I can do it, you know. You know, Sikhi, you know how we talk, right? Come on here, Sikhi. And anyway, he went there, slowly went, he has his little bead bag here. Maharaj, he's just like this, walking. Guru Jayapatākā Maharaj is busy on his computer. He's checking his computer. He's just like that. For half an hour, he's staring at it. Maharaj. Oh, and then he starts giving him conversation about this and that. Oh yeah. This is how he is. Okay, I was there behind like a sneaking to see how he's doing. And he's like, yeah. Oh yeah. 20 minutes later, slowly I go in. Sikhi, what's going on? I'm trying. It's like no trying. Maharaj has got him on a different world. And he has not even asked him to come down. It's 7:30. I go run down here because I got to make sure Rupa is doing her job properly. And then I run back 7:45 there, you know. And then it's almost 8 o'clock. I go there. Sikhi is still like this. Hare Kṛṣṇa. I said, Sikhi, you just screwed up. What happened? You're the only one who can do it. Forget it. I cannot do it. Do you remember that?
No.
Yeah. He's too humble to admit it. Anyway, this is just like the most sweetest thing that happened. And then, guess what? I ended up bringing him. And then he comes and says, you didn't come at 7 o'clock like you said you'd come. And so I'm late. It's not Sikhi's fault. I said, I am, whatever I do, good or bad, you know, it's like that, whatever. And so I just said, okay. And finally he ended up coming at 9, and then of course it was all, and that one day the chip rice was all having ants. Oh my God, it was, and And then Arjuna has got the pastime of doing the chip rice washing. And he's been, Mahaguna, the chip rice is not well. Then I have to run and get the chip rice. Oh, see, you didn't make, and then it became the point that Jayapatākā said, you didn't make the chip rice right. So don't blame others on your fault. It's like, okay, when your guru is the most chastising I've done. And even there was a couple of times here when he came, one time he chastised me. No, there is no way you can do like that. No, I'm not gonna, and in front of everybody, he just like flew me away, right? Of course, people think now I've kind of mellowed out. But in the past, I was a very passionate girl. And in front of Jayapatākā Maharaj, he just crushed me, right? That day, I just thought, okay, great. He doesn't like me. He's just in front of everybody. This was a few years ago. Chastised me. And from being like this, high-powered person, I just became like the little meek, humble, and even, I don't know, grass or whatever you can call. He was so distraught. I was so crushed. And then I went off, and then all of a sudden, after everybody left, he came and said, I just said that, but I realized, I know you were doing the right thing, but I just had to tell you like that because I don't want everybody think I'm treating you special because you're my secretary. This is like a 360 on me, But anyway, there's so many pastimes that I have that these are the memories I cherish from. And I really thank Guru Maharaj for making me what I am today. And I don't think I would be in this position of remembering how even in the midst of calamities, being in coma, he still finally is here with us. So let's give in this holy, auspicious day of his appearance, where I'm very grateful and thankful for being amidst all of you to celebrate Vyasa Puja. Even though it was yesterday, we're celebrating today because Jayapataka Maharaj himself said, the feast is not done until you do it at Dwadashi feast. So it's actually a 3-day festival. We celebrated in the temple yesterday a little bit, and today we're doing this nice celebration. So appreciate everybody coming here. We'll have the closing ceremony, closing speech from Vyasa Prabhu, Temple President of Atlanta. And he also he's very commanding, authoritative and all that, but in front of Maharaj, he's also a mouse. So he says, no Maguna, we cannot do like that, we cannot change. But then Jayapatākā Maharaj come, it's all done, flip, 360 flip. We are doing at 7 o'clock. Well, Maharaj shows up at 8, what are you going to do? So, anyway, I think he has...
You got to realize, the Guru, he never arrives too early, he never arrives late. He always arrives at the perfect time. Right?
Yeah, so, anyway, we are all humbled by him, and I'm happy that Vyasa Prabhu has been so kind to Jayapatākā Maharaj, and he's always, with so much respect, he serves him, and he never wants to do anything without taking his blessings. Before I hand over the mic to him, let's give a big round of applause for everybody who brought offerings, and for Govardhan Leela and the temple crew for making a very beautiful feast to honor our Guru Maharaj. We had a total of 85 preps. 84. And special recognition to Govardhan Leela. I said, you better make this feast nicely. And I also told Vedasara, if you cannot go to Tennessee, because he was planning to go to Tennessee. And I said, if you really like Jayapatākā Maharaj, of course they all think I'm blackmailing, but I told them, if you like Guru Maharaj, Jayapatākā Maharaj like you do, then you make Malai Kofta. So, did you make it?
Yes.
Okay, give a round of applause to Vedasara.
Thank you, Mahagona. I appreciate the beautiful introduction. So, thank you all very much for coming. It's actually a great privilege to be here and to have His Holiness Jayapatākā Maharaj amongst us. Most of you may not realize, you actually know it's a theoretical thing, don't realize that Jayapatākā Maharaj is actually one of the first leaders that Śrīla Prabhupāda had appointed or 11 of them. And he's, out of 11, just 2 more left. And active. And that's His Holiness Jayapataka Maharaj and His Holiness Hridayananda Maharaj. But you see, Jayapataka Maharaj's life has been something that's definitely caught my attention over the years and commands immense amount of respect from me. The reason I say that is he lives a life that is very public. That means every single moment of his life there is some devotees involved in it. There is no question of him going out and doing any kind of nonsense. For example, you will see spiritual leaders nowadays, they go off on these vacations and no idea who's going with them, no idea what they're doing. So his life is extremely transparent. I've seen over the years growing up since I was 5-ish, seeing him, watching him grow and expand and travel the world and preach Krishna consciousness and inspire thousands and thousands of people all around the world. It was very, for me, commands a tremendous amount of respect for that. And just personal realizations. When I lived in Mayapur, I had the opportunity to actually serve under him. He was my GBC.
Story.
You want to hear a story? Okay.
Just a person.
Okay, beautiful.
Five-year-old story.
Okay, they give me. So, I was a kid in the ashram, in the Gurukula, and Maharaj would actually come and spend a lot of time with the kids. He really loves little kids. That was my impression of him. And being little kids, there was a lot of awe and reverence with him. So we were not sure what to do, and every time he'd come to the Gurukula, we used to have water polo games. Does anybody know what that is? So we have this pond in the middle of the Gurukula, which is pretty big. And we swim in that pond, so he would come and he would want to play water polo, and he would also like to wrestle. It's a devotee sport. So I wasn't sure whether you're supposed to wrestle with the guru and with the sannyasi and all his Jayapataka Maharaj. And he would get into a ring to wrestle, and he would take on like 5-6 kids at one time to wrestle. Not kids, we were pretty teenage, strong guys. He was physically extremely strong, and he would see that the kids would get a tremendous amount of joy just having a good time. That's one thing that I remember, and another thing that I remember was playing water polo with him. One of the things that you may not know, he has a very long breath. When he takes his breath, he can hold his breath for a really long time. So when you're playing water polo, if you have the ball and you're swimming with it, he comes and catches up with you, he's going to dunk you and take the ball from you. So that's how water polo is played. So, and I don't have a long breath, and especially when you see him swimming at you, you kind of panic. So you start breathing a little faster. So then he came close, and I was like, here's the ball, and I let go of the ball. Because I knew he was going to dunk me, and he was going to hold me down until I let go of the ball. So I was like, okay, here you go, have it.
So did you ever win?
Actually, to play with him is hard to win because he's a really fast swimmer. I've seen him, I swam with him in the Ganga, swam across, and in the Gurukula, somehow he swims really fast. There was another kid who was contemporary to me, he lives in Australia, he's Mathuresh. Now he has a long breath. So whenever Jayapataka Maharaj had the ball, he would go and dunk Jayapataka Maharaj and get the ball from him because he's the only one. You'd hold him down there till he would let go of the ball. So I would always pick him, being a captain on one of the teams that always pick him. Because Jayapataka Maharaj always wanted to be against me in these water polo games. So that was just a few little interactions that I've had with him over the years. And working under him as a manager was a really a pleasure of mine, just to see how he saw everything on a different perspective. Because he is extremely spiritually exalted, so the perspective that he sees things is very different from mine. It was really refreshing, and it was very enlivening for me to serve under him. His Holiness Jayapataka Swami Maharaja ki jai. Now I'm going to give you a little Mahaguna. Thank you, Mahaguna, for making this possible and getting things together. Please, let's give a round of applause to Mahaguna. A lot of times it really takes a lot for somebody to just keep calling and nagging and blackmailing, whatever she calls it, to get things done, but it happens. So this is Mahaguna. Thank you so much.
I just want to spend just less than a minute to thank the people who contributed for this program. This entire festival, just going to read quickly the names of all the devotees who donated, and if you did, your name is not there, please know that you are one of them. Anyway, all the disciples, anyway, most of the disciples are here, right? Should I read them? Okay. Unfortunately, it's too long list to read, but if you know you're the one who contributed for this festival, let's give all the disciples helping to put this festival a big round of applause. And I also want to thank some people for helping together. Of course, Lakshman Prabhu was kind enough to help out to get some donations from everybody. And this Sunday, we are going to honor Jayapataka Vyasa Puja, so the disciples are sponsoring the Sunday feast, and Lakshman Prabhu and his wife are going to cook the Sunday feast. So please give them a round of applause. I also want to especially thank Govardhan Leela for organizing today's feast, and also the devotee crew, Prana Govardhan for cooking the feast. A very big sumptuous feast has been planned. And Pranagor, and Gopi, and also, of course, we cannot forget the man here, Vyasa, the president, and he specially cooked today. So if you get spicy and you get a stomachache, don't come to me. And also, I wanted to Gopi, Ramakrishna, and Jamuna, all these devotees, Mukunda, Arjuna, they all helped out. So I want to please give them a round of applause. Sikhimaiti Prabhu, of course, likes to collect trash. That's his pastime, collecting trash. So, anyway, I just want to tell you that today's entire program, we're also giving a little bit donation left over from our collection, whatever, for allowing us to celebrate the festival in the temple. Thank you, Vyasa Prabhu, for giving us this opportunity. So, having said this, I think the next will be the Pushpanjali. Gopuraj Prabhu is going to lead the Pushpanjali prayers. And what I want to tell you before you get up, we are going to try to do this Super Saturday style prashadam. So please, we don't want to do because Guru Maharaj likes it. So what we want to do is make sure when you're ready for prashadam, line properly so that there is not a commotion. There's a ton of prashadam. Nobody will go hungry, okay? So please cooperate with the devotees who are going to serve. Okay, thank you so much. Now is Pushpanjali. And then Arti.
Shakti, Gora Shakti, Swarupaya, Rupanuga, Varayate, Gora Vibhava, Bhumeshtvam, Nirdeshta, Sajjana Priya, Vaishnava, Sarvabhuma, Sri Jagannathaya, Te Namaha, Namo Vishnupadaya, Krishna Prestaya, Bhutale, Srimate, Jayapataka, Swami iti namine, Namacharya Paraya, Nitai Kripa Padayane Gorakata Damadaya Nagragramitarine Esha Pushpanjali
Where is Uttam?
Bhagavad Das was coming. There's Lord Nityananda. Immediately he said, "Who is that thief? Bring him here to me immediately." That's right. We brought him in, threw him down on the ground, put his foot on his head. Said, "You are a thief. For your punishment, you must feed all my Vaishnavas here immediately." So he didn't have time to plan. So, but what a wonderful festival they organized. So such to the point that even Śrīla Prabhupāda came here and he named this Vipanati Dham. Maybe it's because we're more spontaneous, we're not so organized. So, so he took our propensities and mixed them with a nice festival. But anyway, it's always ecstatic, isn't it? Yeah. So this morning, what we're going to have, we're very fortunate. We have many senior devotees here. We have His Holiness Bhakti Purushottam Maharaja ki, His Holiness Bhakti Vyasa Swami ki, and I can't remember the name of that thing that's from Brazil. Ki. But also, they're performing austerity. If they're staying an hour away, there's no place to stay. I offered them some trees, but anyway, this is a different thing also. But they're coming also. So this morning, we're going to make our adjustment to our spontaneous festival. We're very fortunate. We have Her Grace Malati Mataji Ki. You may not realize, probably more senior than everybody in here. Even Jayapatākā, she remembers when he joined the movement. So, but she's so humble, she keeps herself in the background. We just take her for granted all the time. You see her immediately serving, she's picking up the tray, she's doing this, she's doing that. So, but actually she's very experienced. She has seen the forefront of the movement from the beginning. When you think about it, pioneer, extraordinary service. Our center in London, that's because of Her Grace of going there. In fact, we have Vakyatra, Malati again. From Jagannath, working in the car, making chapatis, or whatever, if you want to call those chapatis, or whatever they were.
She brought Jagannath. She brought Jagannath to the movement.
Woo!
Vivo!
Vivo! Vivo! Vivo! Well, if you get a chance, you need to at least pay obeisances if you can't do some service for her. Anyway, we're very fortunate. She's also, I was just thinking, I don't think you've missed one either, have you? Festival. Maybe. But there were some times when nobody would come. It'd just be Malati and Jayapatākā. But it was nice. It's very intimate like that. Sometimes you have too many senior devotees and they kind of go like this. They don't really get involved. So anyway, thank you for coming. She arrived 1 o'clock in the morning, coming with her crew. Who's with you all? Raise your hands.
Govinda Bhakti and Bhakti.
So Malati, she's going to speak to us, and then we'll have Bhakti Purushottam Maharaj if there's a little time. Jayapatākā Maharaj, as you know, because of his current condition, sometimes he needs extra time, so we're running a little late. And we're thinking 8:30 we'll greet the deities. By that time, they'll come down and greet the deities with us. After greeting the deities, he'll speak. And we have a short, we want to honor him this year because of 30 years of him coming continuously. Not just coming, as you know, he's always in the kitchen. He's doing everything. He still does that. In fact, Bhakti Purushottam Maharaj mentioned also how even he missed Gorpanim, which you can imagine, Gorpanim in Mayapur. He also missed his Vyasa when over there. But he's never missed Vyasa. So, anyway, we thank him so much for all this. So, we'll stop. Yes, very quick.
I know a secret, the most confidential knowledge on how to please Śrīla Prabhupāda during this festival. Can anyone guess what it is? Well, yes, but there's one thing that you know, if you do this thing, Prabhupada will be smiling at you. If you see a paper plate or a paper cup on the ground, pick it up.
How'd it go?
Prabhupada will be very, very pleased with you. Okay? This is very confidential knowledge.
I go Colorado.
That's another thing that's fortunate about Atlanta. I don't think you see this in most temples. We have practically all the temple presidents in the area. What's the first one?
Jamanjaya.
Jamanjaya. I don't know. Usually he comes, but anyway, Jamanjaya, Balavanta, Gokularanjana, Vyasa. I'm sorry, Balabhadra. And Balabhadra. So it's how many other places you go, you get that lineage, so you keep the history of the place. So we're also very fortunate that way. We thank all these souls for that great service. So without further ado, third grace on the.
So Śrīla Prabhupāda would always chant the glorious Puja Jayapatākā. We will chant. Then speak of the Lord Jayapatākā. But this is a nectar-filled issue of Lord Jayapatākā, and in particular, there are wonderful instructions from letters by Śrīla Prabhupāda about the worship of Lord Jagannath somewhere in here. So I thought we could speak a little bit, mention a few of those. So Lord Jagannath first appeared in the Western world in about March of 1967, and it was an unexpected appearance because we didn't know who he was, or we didn't even know that he was coming. But it so happened that somehow or other I had a little something to do with that on the external side of it. Most of us at that time, in the 60s, we were coming from the hippie Sampradaya background. And one of the great qualities of the hippies is that they were very open-minded. They were ready to hear new things or experiment with new philosophies. I mean, that was good and bad in some ways, but at least it was good in terms of introducing Krishna consciousness. And one of the philosophies at that time was very much akin to Krishna consciousness. We say everything belongs to Krishna, right? Nothing belongs to us. So they got the kind of a perverted reflection of that philosophy. They said, nobody owns anything. And, and particularly they were against like large corporations and, big business trying to own things. So there was a lot of pilfering going on in the name of liberating things. And, to put it politely, we could say like stealing or shoplifting. And so many of us, including my fallen self, had that habit of going into stores and walking out of stores and skipping the payment part. And like we said, we were calling it liberating, but really it was stealing. During that time, when I had initially come to the movement, which wasn't really a movement when I came, but I still had that propensity. In fact, we had our lunch program, feeding people, and if it wasn't for that propensity, initially we probably wouldn't have had any boga, because I was a little bold. I'd go in the supermarket with a basket and just fill it up, and then I'd walk out. So that was how the first few weeks of our free food program, free prasadam program really going on. But then later that changed, and how it changed was there was this dairy truck that would come up in front of the San Francisco temple, and across the street was a little store. So he'd make a delivery to that store, and I'd walk out the temple and go to the back of the dairy truck while the driver was making his delivery, and I'd pick a little, 2 to 5 pounds of butter, and then, use that for the cooking. Śrīla Prabhupāda lived above the temple in an apartment on Frederick Street. One day I was in his apartment, and he goes, "Mamaji, every day I see you going to a truck." So he goes, "What are you doing?" I was just curious. But when he asked me, I felt I kind of like had a glimpse of that was maybe an awkward activity. So he asked me that question, what am I doing? So I answered him by saying, "I'm getting butter," which was not lying. I was getting butter. I just didn't say how I was getting it. But his answer was, "Yes, Krishna was also a butter thief." So when he said that, I was starting to understand that Krishna, God, could do things that we couldn't do. So I got the message, although he didn't say you shouldn't be stealing, I got the message. So from that point, I didn't, use that propensity anymore. But I had already gone to a store previous to that incident. I had gone to this store, and it was an import shop down in the wharf in San Francisco. And I had gone in there. I didn't have any money, so what was I doing in that store? I was just looking around, and then I just started to leave. I thought, what am I doing in here? I started to leave. But on the way out, there were 3 big barrels of very colorful wooden, small little wooden figurines. And they were just really unusual looking. And I stopped and I was looking at them, and I went and picked one up. A black face, round eyes, big smile, and looking, it was just small like this. And I looked on the bottom, and there was a little gold tag on the bottom that said, "Made in India." So I was fascinated. Wow, this is from India. And in my very immature mentality, I was thinking, Swamiji's from India, Halaba's from India, Puris are from India. We're just getting acquainted with things. So I just put them in my pocket and left the store. So, that had already happened, then the butter thing, so now I wasn't stealing anymore. But what had happened was Mukunda and Shamsundar took this, I brought him home, I put him on the little mantle over the fireplace, and it was just sitting there. But one day Shamsundar and Mukunda took it to Śrīla Prabhupāda to show him. They were just wondering, what is this thing from India? And to their surprise, Śrīla Prabhupāda made his obeisances. So he asked him, "Where did you get this? Where did it come from?" And they said, "Well, Maharaja got it." So he sent somebody to get me. I was in the kitchen cooking at the time. He said, "Swamiji wants to see you." So that person had come down in the elevator. I ran up the stairs because I was faster than the elevator. Swamiji wanted to see me, so I was up there really fast. But when I came in his room and I saw that little figurine, I thought, oh no, I'm busted again. And I was feeling really oh, but I don't even do this anymore. And now it's coming back. My karma's coming back. So I'm standing there, and I was kind of feeling a little apprehensive. He goes, "Oh," he says, "so you have brought?" "Yes, Swamiji." "So are there others?" And then I started to feel a little relaxed, yes, lots, because they were each one had a little barrel. But he was very he goes, "No, 2 others, different." I said, "Yes." He said, "Bring them." So then he explained to us, Shamsundar was there, and we sat down. He said, "This is the Supreme Personality of Godhead." And he gave a brief history of his appearance. Particularly, he was telling us how it was carved from a log that had come in from the ocean. So then he turned to Shamsundar. He said, "So Shamsundar, can you carve large?" And he indicated a particular height. So Shamsundar looks, he goes, yes, yes. Now, he actually had some ability to creatively carve wood. But I would mention here that at that point, if Śrīla Prabhupāda, any time with Śrīla Prabhupāda, if he asked you to do something, can you do this? You'd say yes, even if you couldn't do it. Because you knew by Śrīla Prabhupāda's desire and his order that you could do it, even if you couldn't do it. And that was really what empowerment was about in those days. He would just ask you to do a wonderful service and, maybe over your head that, yes, I'll do it. And somehow it could be done. So then we took another devotee, his name was Murari, and we had an old truck, panel truck. We went to this place by the ocean. It was more like the bay, but it was called a salvage yard. It's a place where all kinds of stuff would come in from the ocean.
Oh.
And we told there was a guy there, and this guy looked like, I have to describe him, he looked like Porky the Pig. Porky the Pig is a comic book character, maybe he's not around anymore, but he was like a short, fat guy with a cigar and a little smashed hat in his head. Well, this guy was an exact replica. And so we told Porky we needed to get a big, huge piece of wood, and he goes, well, look around, the place was huge, so we had to drive around. And eventually we found a big, huge piece of wood. So a big struggle to get that thing into the van, and then we went to look for Porky to pay for it, and Porky had disappeared, so we also disappeared. So this piece of wood became Jagannath Subhadra Valadev, and Shamsundar started carving. We got, when I brought the other ones, and he made the proportions very meticulously and started carving the first set of Lord Jagannath. And if any of you have heard Shamsundar talk about this, he will mention how he was carving them very slowly. He was actually very quick to do things, but in this instant he was carving very slowly because Śrīla Prabhupāda said he would wait until they were completed. He would stay in San Francisco until they were completed. So in order to keep him there longer, he was carving very slowly. Finally, I think Śrīla Prabhupāda caught on one day. He came and he goes, so how long will it take you, Shamsundar? So we started to speed up. Anyway, the installation now was a very, very simple affair because we weren't even understanding what a deity installation was. It was already inconceivable that deities were coming to this little group of ex-hippies and almost ex-hippies on the Haight-Ashbury. But Śrīla Prabhupada gave certain instructions, which was that there should be a raised platform. This was what he meant for the altar, so there should be a raised platform. So Shamsundar took that pretty literally. We had big tall ceilings, about like this here, very tall. So he had a really raised platform. You had to get up on a ladder. So they were quite high off the ground. He said there should be a canopy, and he described that it should be blue with gold fringe. So Shamsundar made a frame, and Jumuna covered it and had the gold fringe around it. He said there should be lights. So Shamsundar got one light for each deity, and he put this was a little thing you could stick in between the socket and the light bulb, and it would cause the light would blink on and off, on and off. So he got these blinking things, and there was a red, green, and blue light, something like that. So, it was like a little colorful. Prabhupada liked it very much, for your information. And then he said there should be a curtain, because he said that when Lord Jagannath goes to sleep, when he rests, which we were thinking, when he rests, he should have privacy. Then he told us, now the Lord has come, you have to offer everything that you cook to him. And he told me to get plates, specifically for the deity. I mean, you can imagine, we had no clue. And then he paused and said, plates that nobody else has eaten off of. Because we had a habit of recycling things. We'd just walk around the street, we'd find something from the street and, pick it up. And on Śrīla Prabhupāda's first Vyasa sign, which we called the dayas, we didn't know the word Vyasa sign, so it was just a piece of plywood on some legs. And we wandered around the street. We found an old tossed out sofa, and we took a cushion from that old sofa off the street and put that on the Vyasa sign. So we were not very clear at that point on certain points of etiquette. So he had to tell us to get plates that nobody else had eaten on for the deity. So then, we started doing this. At that point, up until that point, when we'd offer, we understood about offering, but we'd just bring the whole pots and we'd line them up in the center of the floor of the temple room, and then we'd all bow down, everybody in the room, and ring a bell, and we'd go, Hare Kṛṣṇa, Hare Kṛṣṇa, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. And we'd do this for a little while until everybody was either falling asleep or, hunger pains, and then, we'd honor prasadam. So now when Lord Jagannath came, we started saying the 3 prayers, and we didn't have a formal pujari, but whoever was the cook, we would offer. Go back to the installation. The installation was that the deities came and they were placed on this high platform. They were just as they were. They had no clothes at all. They were just in their natural form. And we didn't have a ghee lamp. Prabhupada told us to offer candles, so we had candles on, it's like one little fat candle on a plate. And in turn, people were we would pass that plate around and everybody would get to offer, like this, just making circles. And then a lot of incense. So that was pretty much the extent of the installation ceremony. And of course, very profuse kirtan. Then we were getting into it was actually really exciting having Lord Jagannath, because many things happened to point to the fact that this was a very unusual personality, and that he was actually there in our little temple in the Haight-Ashbury. On one occasion, the 2 cooks, Uddhava and Upendra, had an argument about offering burnt rice. The rice had been burnt that day, and so the argument was whether to offer it or not offer it. So one of them said, we can't offer burnt rice, but the other one said, why not? We can offer rice. And the reason the person said we could offer the rice, he says, because that person had asked Śrīla Prabhupāda, after Prabhupada said we had to feed him and, had these plates, he goes, well, how does he eat? And Prabhupada looked at him and he said, that you cannot understand. He says, but he can eat with his elbow if he wants, or his knee. Which definitely we could not understand. He said he can simply glance at it and taste everything. So based on that statement, the other cook who said we could offer burnt rice said he's not going to really eat it, he's just going to glance at it. So the other cook who said we couldn't offer burnt rice, he felt defeated. So the burnt rice was brought in, put in the altar, the curtain was closed, and we're all down there, saying the prayers, ringing the bell, and a big noise came from inside the altar area. So the curtain was lifted up, and there was the plate, the burnt rice and everything else upside down on the floor. And that was a very dramatic lesson. I mean, we got the lesson, we got the message that he may be glancing, but he's tasting with those eyes, with those beautiful lotus eyes. So it was a very strong message. And another time, which is recorded with a famous photo, where you can see with Śrīla Prabhupāda sitting out on Hippie Hill in San Francisco, and right next to him is Lord Jagannath, also sitting on Hippie Hill. And this was in pre-close of that day, then he's in his natural form. On that day, we were planning the Harinam on Hippie Hill, which was a popular spot. And when we'd go and do kirtan there, immediately we would have an enthusiastic crowd. But we thought, let's do something to surprise Swamiji, because that day we heard he was also coming. So to surprise him, we brought Lord Jagannath to Hippie Hill. And we certainly surprised him. He came and, he was we sensed right away that maybe something wasn't quite right. And he explained to us, he went on with the kirtan, but then he explained, Lord Jagannath only leaves the temple once a year for his Rath Yatra. And then he never goes alone. He comes with his brother and sister. So we got the message. One other time previous to that, it had been very, very foggy for a long run in San Francisco. And if you've ever been there, you can know it's just like, it's almost borderline depressing, day after day of fog and no sun. Finally the sun broke. It was like, what a relief. And we were looking at the deities in the back of the temple and we're thinking, they'd like to get a little sun too. So we put a piece of cloth out on the sidewalk right in front of the temple and we brought the deities out. So they could get a little sun. But they were just sitting there on the sidewalk and people were walking by and just, smoking their cigarettes, eating their whatever, and like. But after the excursion to Hippie Hill, then, except for Rath Yatra, he did not come out any longer. So in about July, Śrīla Prabhupāda, before July, I think the first one was July 17th, something like that, he told us, he informed us about Rath Yatra. And he drew this lovely little pencil picture of a Rath cart, including the little horses on the front.
Wow.
And he asked Shamsundar, can you build this? And of course, at that point it was a little late. So the first Rath cart was on the back of a flatbed truck that we borrowed from a group of hippies that lived next door called the Diggers. And the Diggers, they were very much into the, mood of giving and taking, particularly the taking part. Take it and then give it. And they had this truck, which they gladly let us use. So in the back of that truck, we had the deities, but they weren't lined up in order. It was like Jagannath was facing one direction to the side, Subhadra faced to the back, and Baladev was facing the other direction. So again, a little bit awkward, but it went on. Prabhupada had given us a basic instruction that there should be profuse flowers. And, we were without any funds at that. It was like a month-to-month existence just to pay our little rent there. So a crew of devotees went to Golden Gate Park. We lived right by that park and kind of decimated the park. We took every flower we could and decorated the car. And on the way down to the ocean during the procession, I remember one of the policemen looking at the car, looking at the park, and putting two and two together. Let's see, got it. So you can get on YouTube, if you get on YouTube and Google San Francisco Rath Yatra 1967, there's a little clip and you can see this little car. So there's a cart of the deities, and then right in front of the deities on the cart there was a kirtan party going. And then you see a few hippies dancing, and so it's like a little piece of recorded history there. He told us we should distribute prasadam. So we had a hard enough time making, we were cooking for about 100 people a day. Wow. People were coming because they heard, free lunch. And so I said we should distribute prasadam, and I was thinking, what can we do? Our funds are kind of limited. So what I decided was we'll make chapatis, because it's flour and water, we can afford some flour, we'll just make chapatis. So I got a bunch of people, recruits, people hanging around the street. There are people dropping in the temple, to help make these chapatis. And I suddenly realized, of course, we only had one or two rolling pins of power, for rolling the chapatis. So I sent a few people out just, in those days there was like a lot of stuff on the street. And among other things, there would be people drinking wine. And the wine bottles had a long neck on them. And so there was be a lot of wine bottles on the street. So I told these people, go bring back these wine bottles. And we rinsed them out, and then we were using these, empty wine bottles to roll the chapatis for the Rath Yatra.
Wow.
And I have to say, not very many of them were round. All kinds of shapes, holes in them, whatever. we didn't have any butter to put on it, and our goal was to make 1,000 chapatis. So we stayed up all night. We made these chapatis, and the next day, of course, because they didn't have butter in them, like they were a little bit, shall we say, crispy, a little hard. But we had them, and the thing was that I remember from that, it was really wonderful that prasadam was such a joy, and we had such firm faith in prasadam. Many of us had come, like myself, I did macrobiotic, which means no sugar, no fruit, no this, no that. And the first taste of halva blew that diet out of them. It was gone. It was just, the prasadam was just so incredible, and it had such a wonderful effect. It just could capture anybody. So here we had these bizarre-looking, chapatis, and we were going up to people, passing them out with such conviction. Just take this. This is spiritual food. This is spiritual food, and you'll become happy and blissful. And we believed it, and because we were happy and blissful, honoring this spiritual food, this prasadam, so people were taking it, even though it looked totally weird, and they were eating them, and they were liking it. And I always remember that, because later on we'd be doing prasadam distribution, they'd give them a big plate of halva and khichdi or whatever, and a lot of times you'd find that plate stuck somewhere or thrown away. But that day, it was, everybody just took these, bizarre-looking bread wafers and just accepted that this was spiritual food, and they were eating them, and nothing was, we didn't see anything thrown on the street. So, all glories to Lord Jagannath's prasadam. The second year, Śrīla Prabhupāda gave us a new instruction, and that instruction was, to our astonishment, that Lord Jagannath should have some clothes. So for his Rath Yatra on the second year in 1968, he was dressed. He drew a little picture, and Jamuna and Harsharani made the first dress very, very nicely, simple but very nice, with turbans and peacock feather. And then he told us, we were thinking he'd just wear the clothes for the party, for the Rath Yatra, but he explained, no, actually, he wears them every day, and actually we should have enough outfits so he can change his dress every day. So we were a little astounded by that, but immediately, of course, when Śrīla Prabhupāda would give us some instruction, we wanted to follow it, and so of course we followed this one. So this is just a few bits of information that are coming from letters from Śrīla Prabhupāda. And of course we know that Rath Yatra, it started in '67 in San Francisco, but to use Prabhupāda's expression, it spread like wildfire. And the next 7 deities were sent to New York City. And and Shamsundar carved those also. The third set of deities was in Los Angeles, and Shamsundar also carved those. And then there were, I think some were carved in maybe Seattle or a couple other places, and we went to London, and he carved the fourth set of deities that he had carved, which are in Radhalanda Ishwara's temple. And those are actually, the deities from San Francisco are now in Berkeley. And those deities in Berkeley are the original deities that were carved by Shamsundar in 1967. So if you ever have the opportunity to take darshan, they're very powerful deities. And then the deities in Soho Street Temple in London, those were also original deities carved by Shamsundar. The ones in New York and LA were replaced. The ones in New York got, I think it was termites or some kind of insect attacked them, so they were replaced, and the old bodies at Prabhupada's instruction were put into the ocean. So Brahmananda had written to Śrīla Prabhupada inquiring in Prabhupada, who is Lord Jagannath, and Prabhupada just answered, Lord Jagannath is one feature of Krishna. Jagat means universe, Natha means Lord. The Lord of the universe. Simple explanation. And then in a letter to Dayananda Nandarani, he explains that he asked, the question was, what is the difference between Jagannath deities and Krishna? And why is the latter not fed and cared for as well as the former? And why are Jagannath deities more tolerant? So this letter was from August of 68. So Krishna means himself and all his different expansions. Sometimes Krishna appears as Vasudeva, sometimes as Shankarsan, sometimes as Jagannath, sometimes as Lord Caitanya, and sometimes as Rama. So Jagannath is another feature of Krishna, and he is especially favorable to the people who are not strictly advanced in the Brahminical culture of Vedic rituals. So then he explains this, Lord Jagannath is situated in India, in Puri. This place is one of the towns of Orissa. The people of Orissa and Bengal, they are sometimes fish eaters. About 90% of the population is fish eaters. But still, Jagannath Swami and Puri accept service from these people, although they are sometimes fish eaters. In the Kali Yuga, people are not so clean, and therefore service to Jagannath Swami is preferred. Service to Lakshmi Narayan and Radha Krishna requires a highly elevated position. But still, whether we serve Jagannath or Radha Krishna, the effect is the same. By facilitating the worship of the Lord in the form of Jagannath is more congenial than others. When anything is offered to Jagannath, it does not mean that it is not taken by Krishna. In the temple, although we offer to Jagannath, it is also accepted by Krishna. Be assured of this fact. So that was a very nice instruction. And then in a letter to Hanuman Prasad Podar in 1970, he mentions, so when there's an opportunity, I establish, first he goes, my Guru Maharaj recommended temples of Jagannath in these countries, so I was inspired to establish first of all Jagannath Swami, because he is kind, even to the Malechas. Then, when there's opportunity, I establish Radha Krishna Murtis. So generally, in all our temples, Jagannath Swami and Lord Chaitanya Sankirtan pictures are inevitably there. And gradually, we're installing Radha Krishna Murtis in each and every center. And then this is the letter he mentions, Jayapataka. It's to another devotee, but he goes, so far as getting Jagannath deities from Jayapataka Swami, why are you making that extra expenditure? All our Jagannath deities are locally carved. Any boy who knows carving can carve Jagannath. Now, sometimes it was funny because sometimes there would be totally contradictory instructions, and if you don't know the history, then it's kind of bewildering. So here's one of them. To continue a sense of devotion, it is better to wash the body of Lord Jagannath with hot water, so that we may have the feeling that Lord Jagannath is more comfortable. So that was in a letter of 67. Then, in 672, he says, so far your question is concerned, why should the deity of Jagannath be bathed with water? That is not necessary. They should be washed once in a year. That is sufficient. 15 days before Rath Yatra. That is called Snayatra ceremony. And then here's the reason there's a contradiction, so-called. Otherwise, if you bathe them, that will damage the wood, because that began to be, that was happening. And then, that was 72. In 73, he made it more clear. Under no circumstance shall we bathe the Jagannath deities with water or any liquid. They should be bathed with mantra. And that was because, I think it was the New York deities were getting deteriorating. So then, this was regarding dressing. There was a letter to Sudama, if you remember Sudama Maharaja and Kartikeya. Regarding Kartikeya's question about worshiping Lord Jagannath, he should always be worshipped with awe and reverence. And then in a letter to Apendra, he said, I'm very much obliged to you, all of you, that you are taking care of Jagannath so nicely. So this was in June of 68. So this is just, very shortly after Jagannath arrived. He was finally installed in April. This is in June. The more you make the deity of Jagannath attractively dressed, the more you will become spiritually inspired. And then in a more a letter to Jamuna in the same month. He goes, yes, please decorate Jagannath with very attractive knife, clothing, ornaments, helmets, as brightly and magnificently as possible. This was in 68, the year after he came. So now we're getting the message, very attractively, nice clothing, ornaments, helmets, as brightly and magnificently as possible. The way to dress Jagannath has already been shown to Harsharani, and in that way you can make arrangements. And another important instruction, there should be sufficient flower garlands for them daily. The decoration should be so attractive that when people see Jagannath, they will forget all the attractiveness of Maya. So that's a nice meditation, when bringing Lord Jagannath out to his car, people will see the beautiful features of Lord Jagannath, the attractive features, and they'll forget the attractiveness of Maya. Then it will be successful. Actually, this is the process of decorating Jagannath. Our eyes are attracted by the beauty of Maya. But if our eyes are attracted by the beauty of Krishna, Jagannath, then there's no more chance of being attracted by Maya. In other words, when seeing Jagannath nicely decorated, we become freed from the clutches of Maya. And then here's a letter this was to Akiani in 70. So Lord Jagannath can be dressed in yellow, Balaram in bluish color, and Subhadra in red color. That is usual, but any other color is not prohibited. And then in 69, he sent a letter to a devotee who had sent a peacock feather to Śrīla Prabhupāda. And he was in his rooms in LA, so he wrote to her, I have placed a peacock feather which was sent by Anuradha on Lord Jagannath in my altar room, and he's looking very beautiful with it. Okay. And then to Kirtika, the proper method of dressing Lord Jagannath is as a Kshatriya king, and there's no limit to the opulence you can give him. And then two more here. You should not give Jagannath any clubs to hold. It is not necessary. That was in a letter to Deva Maya. And then this is a very interesting letter to Dhruvananda. He goes, now you're asking if Lord Jagannath carries a flute. Why are you asking these things? Who has given you such freedom? Pujaris should operate entirely under the supervision of the temple president and the GBC, not independently. The greatest danger to our movement will come when we manufacture and create our own process for worshiping the deities. So don't ask any more new questions. Whatever is going on, follow it just to the exact standard as I have given you. That's all. So that was a very clear instruction. Also, this is a very, many homes have home deities, etc. So Prabhupada was approached by one couple and asked about worshiping Lord Jagannath in their home, and here's his answer. So far as your deity worship of Lord Jagannath, don't bother with it for the time being. That is my opinion. Householders can have small altars and Guru Gauranga, and Jagannath may be worshipped, but you should not spend a lot of time in this way to try to make the worship, and there was little printed, first class, as you say. You cannot make it first class. That requires much time and money and men. So better to leave the worship of deities very nicely to the temples, and you may go there and worship. Keep a small Guru Gauranga altar. Offer incense and flowers in the morning. Offer all your home prepared foodstuffs there. That's enough for the time being. Better to spend time chanting and following the other regulative principles and preaching and selling books. So that was a very beautiful instruction. It's a good, good one to mention. So if anyone's living near the temple, these are the deities to put your attention to. And otherwise, better to spend time chanting and following the other regulative principles, preaching and selling books.
showing them in Cleveland. So he went to the restroom, come back. By the time he came back, at least 4 discs had been gone, taken away. So devotees get sometimes excited, they want to take things and mementos or whatever. But these, there's a very nice presentation of the history of Jayapatāka Maharaja in Atlanta that's on those discs. So he was frantically trying to find it.
They were just here 5 minutes ago, and now they're gone. What's that? CDs. Maybe someone thought they were in their way and they just leave them. Maybe someone liked them. Yeah, I think they
So last call, does anyone say just participation in the Panihati Festival Key? So I was asked to begin. I'm also the officiator, which means I'll have a little whip and back again. But we want to really express our appreciation to Jayapataka Maharaj. And personally, I have to express my heartfelt love and appreciation for him. Jayapataka Maharaj first came more or less officially in 1981. And I was reminding Bhakti Purushottam Maharaj, at that time he was a young brahmachari. He came along with Maharaj, so this is also 30 years for Bhakti Purushottam Maharaj.